Well, good morning, and thank you all for coming. For those of you who don't know me, my name is John Sylvester. I'm a partner here at K&L Gates, and I'm delighted to host this Brexit briefing. I know a lot of folks in the business community here in Pittsburgh are sort of wondering what's happening and how does it affect them, and hopefully we can answer some of those questions for you. Just a little briefing on the agenda. We're going to have presentations by our three panelists, who I'll introduce in a minute. And then after that, we're going to have what we hope will be a lively Q&A session for members of the audience and some questions that have been submitted in advance. And so if you have a question, what I would ask is that you just hold it to the end of the presentations, and then we'll get to it and try to address it. I would like to say that, several months ago when we planned this Brexit briefing and planned the date of April 12th, that at the time we thought, well, we'll be able to provide clarity and certainty for everybody because March 29th was the absolute drop-dead date by which a plan had to be approved and implemented and enforced. So we would then have a couple of weeks after the dust cleared to tell you what exactly are the arrangements and how are they going to work. Obviously, that didn't come to pass, and a short extension was granted. And when the short extension was granted, April 12th, today, was the date by which, if no agreement had been reached, this was going to be the crash-out date, the date when Britain was going to leave the EU with no deal, and chaos would ensue. And so for the last couple of weeks, we thought maybe today will be the chaos date. But as you know, cooler heads prevailed earlier this week, and another extension until Halloween of this year has been granted. And so today we will have neither clarity, certainty, nor chaos. But hopefully we'll have a little bit of information about what to expect with impending Brexit. And who knows, maybe we'll come back on Halloween of this year and do this all over again and tell you why we were all wrong about what we were predicting. But no, we have a tremendous panel of speakers who have been thinking and studying and writing and speaking about Brexit and its implications, both on a global and on a microeconomic scale for individual businesses, and so we're delighted to have them. Before I introduce them, I just wanted to recognize our partner organizations that are co-hosting this program with us. First is the RAND Corporation, which many of you know is a global policy research firm that has offices in the U.S., Europe, and Australia. And we're very fortunate to have one of RAND Corporation's research offices here in Pittsburgh, out in Oakland, near the universities. They are one of our co-sponsors, as is KPMG, which of course everybody knows is a international organization that focuses on tax auditing and advisory services. And they've, of course, got offices around the world and here in Pittsburgh. And our third partner organization may be one that you're a little less familiar with. It's called British American Connections Pittsburgh, the BACP, or as it's commonly referred to, Britsburgh. And what that organization is, on whose board I sit and many others here in the community, it's an organization that is focused on trying to strengthen the ties, whether they be cultural, business ties, educational, or other ties between the Pittsburgh region and the UK. And I'd like to recognize the chairman of the BACP, Robert Charlesworth, who's there. He has on his lapel the Britsburgh trademark symbol, the black and gold Union Jack. So if you see some of their literature out there and are interested in the organization, feel free to look it up on the web. What I'll next do before we get started is just introduce very briefly the three speakers that you're going to hear from. And then after that, we'll have, as I said, the Q&A session, as well as a visiting attendee from London who's going to appear here in about an hour or so. Ambassador Charles Reis, who's now a vice president of the RAND Corporation, will be our first speaker. And Charlie has a long and very storied career at the State Department and the U.S. Diplomatic Corps. I can't go through all of his different diplomatic posts, but a few of them of particular interest. He served as the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for European Affairs during the period 2000 to 2004. And Charlie was stationed both in London and in Brussels, representing the U.S. in a number of trade and other matters of interest both to the U.S. and to Europe and the U.K. And so he has a very unique perspective on sort of the global implications of Brexit from many different perspectives of many different countries. He also served as the U.S. ambassador to Greece from 2004 to 2007, and after that did some real difficult duty as a coordinator of economic transition in Iraq, serving in Baghdad from 2007 to 2008. He's now, as I said, a vice president of the RAND Corporation, and he oversees RAND's international offices. Our second speaker will be our own Piers Coleman from K&L Gates, London. Piers heads the firm's Brexit advisory team, which is a team of interdisciplinary lawyers that we have over in not just the UK, but also on the continent of Europe and offices in Brussels and other cities to advise clients on the implications of Brexit and what it means for their particular organizations. Piers also happens to be an expert in British electoral law, having advised many candidates and political parties in the UK, and also involved in elections for UK representatives to the EU Parliament. So again, he has a lot of inside knowledge with regard to all of the back and forth that has been going on in the Houses of Parliament, both in London and in Brussels. And then finally, last certainly but not least, Chris Roberts, who's a principal and UK head of tax at KPMG. Chris has extensive experience in international tax matters, and like Charlie and Piers, he has written, spoken, and appeared in many panels to talk about the implications of Brexit, and he's going to talk about some very specific implications for U.S. businesses facing the inevitable or seemingly inevitable split between the UK and the EU. So, as I said, I will now turn it over to our first speaker, Ambassador Charlie Reis, and then we'll come back afterwards after the presenters for Q&A. So, Charlie, would you like to come up?